Hey, it's Kofi, and today I wanted to talk to you a little bit about autism and discrimination. When you're an autistic person, because autism is not a visible disability, it's not something that is exactly written on your face or your body. Maybe someone could discover through your behavior, but because autism is an invisible disability, when you tell someone that you're autistic, sometimes they will treat you differently. This can happen in a number of different ways. Sometimes you'll have a friendship. I had a friendship, and once I told this person that I was autistic because I had just received my diagnosis, they did treat me differently. They stopped talking to me as much, kind of distanced themselves from me. But once I started making TikTok videos, eventually accepted it. Once I told this person, because they were so close to me, I expected them to learn about it. Honestly, I think that's something that everyone should be able to expect from their close friends and family once they've received an autism diagnosis, and then discuss it with them. It's pretty important for people around you who interact with you daily to know that you're on the spectrum. It's very helpful. At least I know that it is to me. Some people don't want to disclose it, and that's okay. That's their decision. But one of the many reasons people don't disclose autism to others is because of their concern for discrimination. There can be discrimination in other ways, not just through your friendships, but through your family, your acquaintanceships, anybody you know, really. Particularly in school, when your teacher, or if a teacher or a professor figures out that you're autistic, they may treat you differently. This one's across the board with everyone. Once you tell someone you're autistic, one thing they may do is start speaking a different way to you. And that is usually along the lines of infantilization. They start talking to you like this, like, oh, you say, oh, actually, I have ASD, I have autism spectrum disorder. And then you can say, and then they say, oh, cool. Or you might think they don't think it's a big deal. And then they start speaking like this, oh, is that right? Are you sure? Interesting. Like, they start talking slower to you, and they start using this. It's the voice that an adult would use for a conversation with a child. That's what the voice is. I already really don't like it when people do that with children, actually. When I was a kid, I hated that. I felt like, why are you talking to me like that? But people change to their baby voice when they think they're speaking with a baby. So beware of that. And if that occurs, simply say, I don't need you to speak slower. I can understand you. Or if someone says, you don't look autistic, like, oh, you don't look autistic, you can say, well, if you have the energy to even explain this to them, because it's not your responsibility to educate them at all. But you can say, actually, autism doesn't have a look. And in my experience, when people say you don't look autistic, I believe that they're thinking of a completely separate disability. I think that they're confusing autism spectrum disorder, which used to be called Asperger's syndrome, with Down syndrome, which can have physical features, but autism spectrum disorder does not. Like I said, a number of things could let them know that you're autistic. Your behavior, or maybe you're too blunt, or maybe you can't mask. There are plenty of autistic people who can't mask and can't alter themselves to fit in with the neurotypical idea of how a person should present. Not everyone is capable of masking, but you might be capable of masking. And in masking, sometimes you come across ableism, because that's what it is, ableism. You can come across this form of discrimination called ableism when you're talking to someone and you are masked, say this person doesn't know you're autistic. I once went to a dinner where someone brought up neurodivergent people at work. I think this guy's neurodivergent. He was acting weird. I know that that's ableism because they've described it in a negative way. They're talking about this person who is different neurologically, but that they don't like because they're neurologically different. And that is ableism. Ableism comes in many different forms. There is internalized ableism. You can start feeling badly about yourself because you don't have the capacity to do what you think a neurotypical person should be able to do. You can be ashamed of the things you struggle with, the fact that you struggle with anything, especially if you're a perfectionist. But discrimination, you just handle it based on the context of the situation. If you're at work, you want to say something that's deemed more professional. If you're one-on-one with someone, if you're talking to a friend, you should let them know that it upset you, assuming that you want to tell them that you're neurodivergent. Or you could just say, hey, I don't think that's right, or I know a neurodivergent person, I know an autistic person, and that's not correct, or something like that. But speak up, because I think it's one of the only ways we can really make a change. Someone's use of the R word is ableist. If you don't know what the R word is, it starts with R-E-T, arted. So I don't know if YouTube will flag this if I say it. So that word is used. It's what it is. It's an offensive term to describe a person who comes across as disabled. And it's a negative term to describe a disabled person like they are less than human. It's a dehumanizing term, and that's why people shouldn't use it. I remember when I was a kid, there was even a song that got really popular with a dance, and it's called Let's Get the R Word. And you can look it up if you haven't heard it. But the song goes like, everybody, let's get, and then the R word. And then there was a dance, and it was very offensive. It had offensive physical movements, imitating that of a disabled person. This caricature of a disabled person, or this description from the neurotypical gaze of a disabled person, it's supposed to emulate probably several different disabilities. I believe that it is referencing an autistic person and or a person with Down syndrome. That's my understanding of what the R word is. I really don't think anybody should use it. I don't think it's funny. And people also use it as a synonym for stupid. So it's already bad enough that you've made this slur for disabled people, but then on top of it, there can be discrimination in the dating world, as if it isn't difficult enough for autistic people to date. Sometimes when you tell people you're autistic, they get turned off and they don't like it. They immediately think of a person who they believe to be autistic or what they believe autism is in their heads. And I feel like most people really don't know what autism is. They know that people have it, but they don't know what we would call the symptoms of it. They don't know the different aspects. So you could go and tell someone like, hey, did you know I'm autistic? And they're like, oh no. And they accept it well and everything, but they probably still don't know what it is. So you can't just assume that people know what it is. But also, it's wrong, even if they do know what it is, to discriminate against them when they liked you before because you're autistic. This has never happened to me, but I know that it happens to other people because I've talked to them about it. I think it's so wrong. I think that really, really as a whole, what I'm trying to say as a whole is that once you discover someone's autistic, treating them differently at all, other than when you're being considerate of the boundaries that they've set for you, that they've stated explicitly, it's wrong to treat them differently, as if they're a child, as if they are non-human, as if they can't do anything by themselves. And depending on that person's support needs, it usually isn't fair. So, if you're a neurotypical person, please refrain from doing all of that. If you're a professor or a teacher or a doctor or a nurse and you know that someone's autistic, treat them like a human. If you know something about autism, really, if you work in the medical industry, the medical field, you should know what autism is. I find that many doctors don't, or don't remember, or don't really care. I went to my pediatrician until I was 18 years old, and he never knew that I was on the spectrum. Why is that? Anyway, like, share, subscribe to the channel, please. I'm a fairly new channel, and I am excited to see so many of you watching. I really care about your views. I want to make good content for you guys. So, like, share, subscribe. Thank you. See you next time.